The morning sun cast long shadows across the private airfield as Tom Parker Bowles stepped out of his sleek black Mercedes. His private jet gleamed on the tarmac, fueled and ready for what should have been a routine business trip to Switzerland. The successful food critic and son of Queen Camilla had made this journey countless times before, but today felt different somehow. As Tom approached his aircraft, he noticed unusual activity around the perimeter of the airfield. Several unmarked black vehicles had positioned themselves strategically, and men in dark suits spoke quietly into earpieces. Tom dismissed it as typical security protocol, perhaps related to another high-profile passenger using the facility. His personal assistant, Sarah, hurried toward him with a worried expression. "Mr. Parker Bowles, there's been a slight delay with the flight clearance," she said, her voice tight with concern. "The authorities want to conduct a routine inspection before departure." Tom frowned. In all his years of private travel, such inspections were rare and usually scheduled well in advance. "What kind of inspection?" he asked, checking his expensive watch. He had important meetings in Geneva that couldn't be postponed. Before Sarah could answer, a tall man in a crisp navy suit approached them. His badge identified him as Inspector James Morrison from Scotland Yard's Special Investigations Unit. "Mr. Parker Bowles, I'm afraid we need to search your aircraft before you can depart. This is related to an ongoing investigation of national importance." Tom's heart rate quickened. As a member of the extended royal family, he was accustomed to security measures, but this felt more serious. "What exactly are you looking for?" he asked, trying to maintain his composure. Inspector Morrison's expression remained neutral but firm. "I'm not at liberty to discuss the details, sir. However, I can assure you this is a matter of utmost urgency involving the security of the crown. We have reason to believe your aircraft may be carrying items of significant historical and monetary value that were recently reported missing from royal collections." The words hit Tom like a physical blow. Missing items from royal collections meant only one thing. Someone had accessed treasures that were supposed to be under the highest security. His mind raced through possibilities. He had attended several royal events recently, including a private family gathering at Clarence House just 3 days ago. Sarah stepped closer, her face pale. "Sir, should I contact your legal team?" she whispered. Tom nodded slowly, his businessman instincts kicking in despite his shock. "Yes, and also call my mother's private secretary. This needs to be handled delicately." He turned back to Inspector Morrison. "I give you my full cooperation, but I want to make it clear that I have no knowledge of any missing royal items." The inspector nodded professionally. "We appreciate your cooperation, Mr. Parker Bowles. The search will be thorough but respectful. We understand the sensitivity of this situation." As they walked toward the jet, Tom noticed more officials arriving. A forensics van pulled up, followed by what appeared to be experts in art and antiquities. The scope of this operation was becoming clear. They weren't looking for anything ordinary. Inside the luxurious cabin of his Gulfstream G650, Tom watched as the team methodically searched every compartment. The investigators wore white gloves and handled everything with extreme care. They examined the overhead bins, the galley, the bathroom, and even lifted the custom leather seats to check the storage areas beneath. Tom's phone buzzed with a text from his mother's private secretary. "Her Majesty is aware of the situation. Remain calm and cooperate fully. Legal team en route." The reality of the situation began to sink in. If royal regalia was truly missing, this was more than just a theft. It was a potential constitutional crisis. The crown jewels and royal regalia represented centuries of British history and were considered priceless. Their disappearance would send shockwaves through the monarchy and the government. Inspector Morrison approached Tom with a serious expression. "Mr. Parker Bowles, we've completed our initial search of the passenger areas. We need to examine the cargo hold and any personal luggage you've brought aboard." Tom gestured toward his single suitcase and briefcase. "Everything I'm traveling with is right there. I packed myself last night." He paused, a troubling thought occurring to him. "Inspector, how exactly did you come to suspect my aircraft might be involved in this?" The inspector exchanged glances with his colleagues before responding carefully. "We received credible intelligence suggesting that missing items might be transported via private aircraft today. Your flight plan and timing matched certain parameters in our investigation." Tom felt a chill run down his spine. Someone had specifically targeted him or was using him as an unwitting accomplice. The implications were staggering. If someone had planted stolen royal treasures on his aircraft, it would not only destroy his reputation, but could potentially implicate him in a crime against the crown itself. As the search continued, Tom's mind raced through recent events. Who had access to his travel schedule? Who knew about this particular trip? The list was surprisingly short. His assistant, his pilot, his security team, and a few close associates who knew about his Swiss business dealings. The forensics team was now using specialized equipment to scan hidden compartments in areas that weren't immediately visible. Their thoroughness suggested they had specific intelligence about what they were looking for, and possibly where it might be hidden. Tom's pilot, Captain Richards, approached with obvious concern. "Sir, I've been flying for you for 5 years. I personally supervised the aircraft preparation yesterday evening. Nothing unusual was loaded aboard." But even as Captain Richards spoke, one of the investigators called out from the rear of the aircraft. "Inspector Morrison, you need to see this immediately." The tone in the investigator's voice made everyone freeze. Tom felt his world begin to shift as all eyes turned toward the back of his private jet, where something significant had clearly been discovered. Inspector Morrison strode quickly toward the rear of the aircraft, followed closely by Tom and the rest of the investigation team. The forensics expert who had made the discovery was kneeling beside a panel near the aircraft's auxiliary power unit compartment, holding what appeared to be a sophisticated detection device. "Sir, the scanner is picking up significant metallic density behind this panel," the expert reported, his voice tense with excitement. "The readings are consistent with precious metals and gems. The density suggests multiple items of substantial weight and value." Tom's legs felt weak. He gripped the nearest seat for support as the reality of the situation crashed over him. Someone had somehow hidden stolen royal treasures in his own aircraft, and he had been completely unaware of it. Inspector Morrison examined the panel carefully. "This appears to be a custom modification. Mr. Parker Bowles, when was the last time you had maintenance work done on this aircraft?" Tom struggled to think clearly through his shock. "About 6 weeks ago, the aircraft underwent its scheduled inspection at Blackbush Airport. The work was performed by Meridian Aviation Services. They've been our regular maintenance provider for 3 years." Sarah quickly retrieved Tom's phone and began pulling up maintenance records. The inspection was completed on September 15th. It was routine: engine checks, avionics updates, and interior cleaning. The forensics expert was now carefully removing screws from the panel with specialized tools designed not to damage potential evidence. "Inspector, this modification is professionally done. Whoever installed this hidden compartment had significant knowledge of aircraft systems and access to precision tools." As the panel came away, gasps echoed through the cabin. Nestled in a custom-fitted foam interior were several items that immediately commanded respect and awe. Even Tom, who had grown up around royal ceremonial objects, recognized the extraordinary nature of what had been concealed in his aircraft. An ornate ceremonial sword lay carefully cushioned, its jeweled hilt catching the cabin lights. Beside it, wrapped in protective silk, were what appeared to be historical medals and decorations. Most shocking of all was an elaborate crown-like object that seemed to pulse with centuries of significance. Inspector Morrison immediately called for additional backup and evidence specialists. "Nobody touches anything until our royal collection experts arrive. This scene needs to be documented exactly as we found it." Tom stared at the hidden treasure in disbelief. "Inspector, I swear to you on my mother's honor, I had no knowledge of this compartment or these items. Someone has set me up." The inspector's expression remained professional, but Tom could see a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "Mr. Parker Bowles, the sophistication of this concealment suggests extensive planning and resources. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision by someone with casual access to your aircraft." Captain Richards moved closer to examine the hidden compartment from a respectful distance. "Sir, this modification would have required the aircraft to be grounded for at least 8 to 12 hours. The work is too complex to have been done during a routine stop." Sarah was frantically reviewing maintenance logs on her tablet. "According to our records, the aircraft was in the hangar for 14 hours during the September inspection. That would have provided sufficient time for this modification." Inspector Morrison was coordinating with his team when his phone rang. After a brief, intense conversation, he approached Tom with an even more serious expression. "Mr. Parker Bowles, I've just received confirmation that these items were reported missing from the Tower of London's collection storage facility exactly 48 hours ago. We're dealing with one of the most significant thefts in British royal history." The magnitude of the situation was becoming clear. The Tower of London housed some of the most precious royal artifacts in existence, items that were considered national treasures and were protected by the highest levels of security. Their theft represented not just a crime, but a potential threat to national heritage. Tom's phone buzzed with an urgent call from his mother's private secretary. The conversation was brief, but intense, and Tom's face grew pale as he listened. When he hung up, he turned to Inspector Morrison with obvious distress. "Inspector, Queen Camilla requests that this matter be handled with absolute discretion. The potential implications for the monarchy are substantial. However, she also wants it made clear that the family will cooperate fully with the investigation, and that justice must be served regardless of any embarrassment to the royal household." The inspector nodded gravely. "We understand the sensitivity, Mr. Parker Bowles. Our priority is recovering all stolen items and identifying those responsible. The fact that these treasures were found on your aircraft doesn't necessarily make you a suspect, but it does make you a crucial witness." As specialized royal collection experts arrived on scene, the true scope of the theft began to emerge. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, the lead curator from the Royal Collection Trust, carefully examined the recovered items through protective barriers. "Inspector Morrison," she said, her voice filled with both relief and concern, "what you've recovered here represents approximately 40% of what was reported missing. These particular items include the ceremonial sword of King George, V, several Victorian-era medals of honor, and what appears to be a replica of St. Edward's crown used in coronation rehearsals." Tom felt a mixture of relief and continued dread. Relief that such precious historical artifacts had been recovered, but dread at the implication that 60% of the stolen treasures were still missing. Dr. Hartwell continued her assessment. "The selection of items suggests someone with intimate knowledge of royal collections and their historical significance. This wasn't random theft. These pieces were specifically chosen for their value and portability." Inspector Morrison was taking detailed notes. "Dr. Hartwell, who would have the knowledge and access to plan such a theft?" The curator's expression grew troubled. "Inspector, that's what makes this case so concerning. The level of access required would suggest someone either currently employed within the royal household security system, or someone who previously held such a position and retained detailed knowledge of our security protocols." Tom's mind was racing through implications. If the thief was someone with royal household connections, it meant the investigation would necessarily involve scrutinizing people his family had trusted for years. It also meant that whoever had orchestrated this elaborate scheme had specifically chosen to implicate him in the crime. The question that haunted Tom was simple but terrifying. Was he merely an unlucky victim of circumstance, or had someone with access to both royal treasures and his aircraft deliberately crafted this situation to frame him for one of the most serious crimes imaginable against the British crown? The investigation took an unexpected turn when Inspector Morrison received an urgent call from Scotland Yard headquarters. After a tense conversation, he gathered the team around him with obvious concern etched on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've just received intelligence that suggests this theft may be part of a larger operation. 2 other private aircraft departing from UK airports today have been flagged for similar searches based on new information we've received." Tom felt his stomach drop. "Inspector, are you saying this is bigger than just my aircraft?" "Much bigger, Mr. Parker Bowles. We now believe we're dealing with an organized network that has been systematically targeting royal collections and using private aviation to transport stolen artifacts out of the country." Dr. Hartwell looked up from her continued examination of the recovered treasures. "Inspector, this would explain the sophisticated nature of the theft. The security breach at the Tower of London required insider knowledge, but the distribution network would need entirely different expertise." Captain Richards, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward with a troubled expression. Inspector, if I may share something that might be relevant. 3 weeks ago, I received an unusual request from what appeared to be a legitimate aviation security firm. They wanted detailed specifications of our aircraft's cargo capacity and internal layout. I provided the information because they claimed it was for updating security databases. Inspector Morrison's attention immediately focused on the pilot. Do you still have contact information for this security firm? Yes, sir. I have their business card and email correspondence. Captain Richards pulled out his phone and began scrolling through his messages. The company was called Meridian Security Solutions. They claimed to be conducting security assessments for high-profile private aircraft. Sarah gasped audibly. Captain, didn't we use Meridian Aviation Services for our last maintenance? That's very similar to the name of the security company. The connection sent a chill through everyone present. Inspector Morrison immediately contacted his headquarters to investigate both companies. The possibility that the theft had been orchestrated by individuals with legitimate access to Tom's aircraft was becoming increasingly likely. While waiting for the background checks, Dr. Hartwell made another disturbing discovery. Inspector, I need to show you something about these recovered items. Upon closer examination, I believe some of these pieces may not be the originals that were reported stolen. Everyone gathered around as the curator pointed to subtle details on the ceremonial sword. The craftsmanship is exceptional, but there are microscopic differences in the metalwork that suggest these might be extremely high-quality replicas. If that's true, it means the original stolen items are still missing. Tom's confusion deepened. Dr. Hartwell, why would someone steal royal treasures and then replace them with replicas? Mr. Parker Bowles, there are several possibilities. They might be testing transportation routes using replicas before moving the real treasures. Or they could be planning to sell the replicas to unsuspecting buyers while keeping the originals for private collectors who specifically want authentic royal artifacts. Inspector Morrison's phone rang again, and this time his conversation lasted nearly 10 minutes. When he finished, his expression was grim. The situation has just become significantly more complex. The other 2 aircraft that were searched today were also found to contain hidden compartments with royal artifacts. However, unlike your situation, Mr. Parker Bowles, the owners of those aircraft appear to have fled the country yesterday. The implications were staggering. Tom realized he might be the only person connected to this operation who was still in the UK and available for questioning. His cooperation could be crucial for unraveling the entire network. Inspector, what can I do to help catch whoever is responsible for this? Tom asked earnestly. My family's reputation and the security of our national treasures are at stake. Inspector Morrison considered the offer carefully. Mr. Parker Bowles, your willingness to cooperate is appreciated, but this investigation is becoming dangerous. The level of organization we're seeing suggests people with significant resources and possibly international connections. Dr. Hartwell was continuing her examination when she made another startling discovery. Hidden beneath the silk wrapping of one artifact was a small electronic device. Inspector, this appears to be some kind of tracking or communication device. It's very sophisticated. The forensics expert carefully removed the device using specialized tools. Sir, this is a GPS tracker with cellular communication capability. Someone was monitoring the location of these items in real time. The revelation sent a wave of anxiety through the group. If the thieves could track the artifacts, they would know exactly when and where they had been discovered. The investigation team might no longer have the element of surprise. Inspector Morrison immediately ordered additional security for the airfield and everyone involved in the investigation. If they were tracking these items, they know we've found them. This changes our entire approach to the case. Tom's phone rang and he recognized his mother's personal number. The conversation was brief but intense, conducted in hushed tones away from the investigation team. When he returned, his expression was troubled. Inspector, Queen Camilla has just informed me that the palace has received an anonymous message claiming responsibility for the theft. The message demands that the investigation be suspended immediately, or additional royal treasures will be stolen and transported out of the country. The threat escalated the situation to a matter of national security. Inspector Morrison contacted his superiors while coordinating with palace security to ensure the safety of remaining royal collections. Mr. Parker Bowles, we now have confirmation that your aircraft was specifically targeted as part of a broader plan to destabilize confidence in royal security. The fact that your Queen Camilla's son made you an ideal target for creating maximum embarrassment and confusion. Tom felt a surge of anger at being manipulated and used in such a callous manner. Inspector, whoever is behind this has made a serious mistake in targeting my family. We will not be intimidated, and we will see this through to the end. As the afternoon wore on, the investigation team worked frantically to analyze the tracking device and trace its communications. The discovery of the GPS tracker had provided their first real lead to the people behind the elaborate theft. Dr. Hartwell completed her examination with both good news and concerning revelations. Inspector, I can now confirm that 2 of the recovered items are authentic royal artifacts, but 3 appear to be replicas. This suggests a very sophisticated operation that had access to detailed specifications of royal treasures and the resources to create convincing copies. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to form a picture of an operation far more complex and dangerous than anyone had initially imagined. Tom found himself at the center of an investigation that could potentially reach the highest levels of government and international criminal networks. The investigation took a dramatic turn when the GPS tracking device began transmitting an unexpected signal. The forensics team's electronics specialist, Dr. Marcus Webb, monitored the device with growing excitement and concern. Inspector Morrison, this device isn't just a tracker. It's receiving an incoming transmission right now, Dr. Webb announced, his equipment detecting the electronic activity. Someone is trying to communicate with whoever was supposed to be carrying these artifacts. Inspector Morrison gathered around the monitoring equipment with Tom and the rest of the team. Can you intercept the message? I'm working on it, sir. The encryption is sophisticated, but not impossible to break. Dr. Webb's fingers flew over his keyboard as complex code scrolled across his screens. Got it. The message is short but clear. Package location compromised. Execute secondary protocol immediately. Eliminate all traces. A chill ran through the group. The message suggested that Tom and everyone involved in the investigation might now be in danger. Inspector Morrison immediately called for additional protection and began coordinating with anti-terrorism units. Tom's hands trembled slightly as the reality sank in. Inspector, what does eliminate all traces mean exactly? Mr. Parker Bowles, in criminal operations of this scale, it typically means they're prepared to destroy evidence and potentially harm anyone who can identify them. We need to move quickly. Sarah, who had been monitoring news feeds on her tablet, suddenly looked up with alarm. Sir, there's breaking news about a fire at the Meridian Aviation Services facility. The entire maintenance hangar is burning and investigators suspect arson. The timing was too coincidental to ignore. Inspector Morrison's phone rang immediately with confirmation from the fire department. The Meridian facility is a total loss. All maintenance records, equipment, and any evidence of the aircraft modification work has been destroyed. Dr. Hartwell was examining the tracking device when she noticed something unusual. Inspector, there's a small compartment in this device that appears to contain a memory card. Dr. Webb, can you access it without damaging potential evidence? The electronics specialist carefully extracted the tiny storage device and connected it to his secure computer system. What they discovered changed everything about their understanding of the case. Inspector, this memory card contains detailed blueprints of royal collection storage facilities, guard rotation schedules, and security camera blind spots. But that's not the most shocking part. Dr. Webb paused, his face pale. The files are dated and time-stamped. This information was accessed and downloaded just 5 days ago from internal royal security systems. The implications were staggering. Someone with current access to the highest levels of royal security had been feeding information to the thieves. This wasn't just a theft. It was treason involving someone within the royal household itself. Inspector Morrison immediately contacted Palace Security and MI5. The case had escalated beyond a simple theft investigation into a matter of national security involving potential infiltration of the monarchy's protective services. Tom felt sick as he realized the scope of the betrayal. Someone his family trusted had been systematically compromising their security and using that access to orchestrate one of the most serious crimes against the crown in modern history. Inspector, my mother needs to be informed immediately. If there's a security breach within the royal household, every member of the family could be at risk. As Inspector Morrison coordinated with multiple agencies, Dr. Webb made another crucial discovery on the memory card. Sir, There's a communication log here showing contact with someone identified only as Palace Guardian. The messages discuss timing of the theft and specific details about royal family travel schedules. The revelation that someone using the code name Palace Guardian was involved sent shockwaves through the investigation. Palace security immediately began reviewing all personnel with access to family travel information. Sarah was monitoring multiple news sources when she noticed another alarming development. Inspector, there are reports of suspicious activity at Heathrow Airport. Security teams are searching for individuals connected to private aircraft that left the UK. Yesterday, Inspector Morrison coordinated with airport authorities while Tom tried to process the magnitude of what was unfolding. His routine business trip had revealed a conspiracy that threatened the security of the entire royal family. Dr. Hartwell was continuing her analysis when she made a discovery that tied together many loose threads. Inspector, I've found manufacturer markings on the replica artifacts. They were created by Chamberlain Fine Arts, a company that specializes in museum-quality reproductions for insurance purposes. Dr. Hartwell, would Chamberlain Fine Arts have access to the detailed specifications needed to create such accurate replicas? Absolutely, Inspector. They work regularly with royal collections and major museums worldwide. They would have had legitimate access to measurements, materials analysis, and photographic documentation of these specific pieces. The investigation team realized they were dealing with criminals who had infiltrated multiple aspects of the royal heritage system. From security services to maintenance companies to art reproduction specialists, the conspiracy involved people with legitimate access who had betrayed the trust placed in them. Tom's phone buzzed with an urgent message from Queen Camilla's private secretary. All royal residences are now under enhanced security protocols. The Queen requests that you remain with the investigation team for your own protection, Inspector. Morrison received simultaneous confirmation that MI5 and Scotland Yard's Counter-Terrorism Command were taking joint control of the investigation. Mr. Parker Bowles, this case has just been classified at the highest levels of national security. We're no longer dealing with just theft. We're investigating what appears to be an organized attack on the monarchy itself. As evening approached, the investigation team prepared to relocate to a secure facility where they could continue their work without risk of surveillance or interference from the criminal network they were pursuing. Dr. Webb was conducting final scans of the tracking device when it suddenly activated again. Inspector, we're receiving another transmission. This one is different. It appears to be coordinates. The coordinates pointed to a location in central London, less than 3 miles from Buckingham Palace. The realization that the criminals were operating so close to the heart of the monarchy added urgency to an already critical situation. Tom looked out at his aircraft, which had become the center of one of the most significant royal security investigations in decades. His routine business trip had uncovered a conspiracy that reached into the very heart of the institutions sworn to protect his family and the crown they served. The coordinates led to an exclusive art gallery in Mayfair, just blocks from some of London's most prestigious auction houses. As MI5 agents conducted surveillance of the location, Inspector Morrison briefed Tom on the developing situation from their secure command center. Mr. Parker Bowles, the gallery is owned by someone who appears to have connections to several of the companies involved in this conspiracy. Helena Blackwood, the gallery owner, has been photographed at royal events and has a legitimate business relationship with Chamberlain Fine Arts. Tom recognized the name immediately. Inspector, Helena Blackwood attended my mother's charity gala just 2 months ago. She donated a significant amount and was introduced to several family members. If she's involved in this, she's been planning this for months. The surveillance team reported unusual activity at the gallery, with several people arriving after normal business hours carrying what appeared to be carefully packaged artwork. Dr. Webb's monitoring equipment detected electronic signals, consistent with the tracking devices they had discovered. Inspector Morrison, I'm picking up multiple GPS tracker signals from inside the gallery. Whatever they're moving in there, it's connected to our investigation. MI5 coordinated with local police to establish a perimeter around the gallery while maintaining covert observation. The goal was to identify everyone involved in the operation before making arrests. Tom's phone rang with a call from an unlisted number. Inspector Morrison nodded for him to answer while Dr. Webb prepared to trace the call. Mr. Parker Bowles, This is Helena Blackwood. I believe we need to meet urgently to discuss a matter of mutual interest involving your recent travel difficulties. Tom's heart rate spiked as he recognized the voice from the charity gala. Inspector Morrison quickly handed him notes on how to respond while Dr. Webb worked to trace the call's origin. Ms. Blackwood, I'm not sure what you're referring to. My travel plans today were simply delayed by routine security procedures. Please don't insult my intelligence, Mr. Parker Bowles. We both know what was discovered on your aircraft today. I'm calling to offer you an opportunity to resolve this situation quietly, without further embarrassment to your family. Inspector Morrison wrote quickly on a notepad. Keep her talking. We're tracing the call, Tom continued carefully. I'm afraid I don't understand what you're suggesting, Ms. Blackwood. What I'm suggesting is that certain valuable items that were temporarily misplaced have now been recovered. However, there are still matters that need to be resolved to ensure this incident doesn't become a public scandal that damages the monarchy's reputation. The implication was clear. Helena Blackwood was attempting to blackmail Tom and potentially the royal family itself. Dr. Webb signaled that he had successfully traced the call to a location inside the Mayfair Gallery. Ms. Blackwood, if you have information relevant to today's events, I suggest you contact the proper authorities immediately. Her laugh was cold and calculating. Mr. Parker Bowles, I am offering your family an opportunity to handle this privately. The alternative would be very unfortunate publicity about security failures and questions about how royal treasures ended up on your private aircraft. Inspector Morrison handed Tom another note. She's admitting involvement. Keep the conversation going. What exactly are you proposing, Ms. Blackwood? A simple exchange. Your family makes a substantial donation to a charity of my choosing, and certain evidence that could be embarrassing disappears permanently. No one needs to know about the security lapses that made today's events possible. Tom felt anger rising at the audacious attempt to extort his family, but he maintained his composure. And if we refuse your generous offer, then I'm afraid the press will receive very detailed information about today's discoveries, along with documentation showing how easy it was to access royal security systems. The scandal would be devastating for the monarchy's credibility. Inspector Morrison wrote urgently, She's confessing to the security breach. We have enough to move. Ms. Blackwood, I think you've said quite enough. I'll be in touch through appropriate channels. Tom ended the call as MI5 agents received authorization to raid the gallery. The surveillance team reported that at least 6 individuals were inside the building, and thermal imaging suggested they were in the process of packing items for transport. Dr. Hartwell, who had been monitoring the conversation, looked shaken. Inspector, if Ms. Blackwood has documentation of security breaches, she could have information that compromises royal protection for years to come. The raid was executed with precision. MI5 agents surrounded the gallery while specialist teams entered through multiple access points simultaneously. Dr. Webb monitored communications channels as the operation unfolded. Inspector, I'm detecting massive data deletion activity from inside the gallery. They're trying to destroy electronic evidence. The agents moved quickly to secure computer equipment before the criminals could complete their evidence destruction. Within minutes, Helena Blackwood and 5 associates were in custody, and investigators began documenting what they found inside the gallery. The discoveries were even more extensive than anyone had anticipated. The gallery's back rooms contained not only the remaining stolen royal artifacts, but also detailed files on dozens of other royal treasures, security protocols, and what appeared to be plans for future thefts. Inspector Morrison coordinated with the raid team, while Tom waited anxiously for updates. When the initial report came through, the scope of the conspiracy was breathtaking. Mr. Parker Bowles, we've recovered all of the remaining stolen artifacts, plus evidence of a systematic operation that has been targeting royal collections for over 2 years. Ms. Blackwood and her associates appear to have been selling replica royal treasures to international collectors while keeping the originals for future sale. Dr. Hartwell was called to the gallery to verify the recovered items. Her preliminary assessment confirmed that they had indeed found the authentic royal treasures, along with sophisticated equipment for creating replicas and forging documentation. Inspector Morrison, the operation here is extraordinary in its scope and sophistication. They have detailed files on royal artifacts in multiple locations, including items that aren't even publicly known to exist. The investigation team realized they had uncovered not just a theft ring, but a comprehensive intelligence operation focused on royal assets and security systems. The implications for national security were staggering. Tom's phone buzzed with a message from Queen Camilla's private secretary. Her Majesty is relieved that the artifacts have been recovered and grateful for your cooperation. The palace will be conducting a comprehensive security review. As the evening continued, interrogations of the arrested conspirators began revealing the full extent of the operation. Helena Blackwood had been recruiting individuals with access to royal security systems for over 3 years, building a network capable of systematically targeting the crown's most precious possessions. Inspector Morrison approached Tom with a mixture of relief and continued concern. Mr. Parker Bowles, while we've recovered the stolen artifacts and arrested the main conspirators, this investigation has revealed security vulnerabilities that will require months to fully address. Tom looked out at the gallery where investigators continued their work. Knowing that his canceled business trip had helped expose one of the most serious threats to royal security in modern times, the criminals had made a fatal error in targeting him, underestimating both his loyalty to the crown and the determination of British law enforcement to protect the monarchy's heritage. The interrogation of Helena Blackwood revealed a conspiracy that reached deeper into the royal security apparatus than anyone had imagined. As Tom watched through one-way glass at the secure MI5 facility, the gallery owner's composed facade began to crack under professional questioning. Ms. Blackwood, the MI5 interrogator began, "We have evidence of your communications with someone codenamed Palace Guardian. We need to know their identity." Helena's lawyer advised her to remain silent, but her nervousness was obvious. The investigators had recovered encrypted communications that detailed not only the recent theft, but also plans for future operations targeting royal residences. Inspector Morrison briefed Tom on what they had learned so far. "Mr. Parker Bowles, the evidence suggests that Palace Guardian has been feeding information to this network for at least 18 months. They had access to family travel schedules, security protocols, and detailed inventories of royal collections. The implications were terrifying. Someone within the royal household's inner circle had been systematically betraying the trust placed in them, potentially endangering not just valuable artifacts but the safety of the royal family itself." Tom's phone rang with a call from Queen Camilla's private secretary requesting an immediate secure briefing. The conversation was tense, with the Queen expressing both gratitude for Tom's unwitting role in exposing the conspiracy and deep concern about the security implications. "Inspector, my mother wants to know how confident we can be that we've identified all the conspirators. The palace is particularly concerned about the Palace Guardian, who remains unidentified." "Mr. Parker Bowles, that's exactly what we're working to determine. Ms. Blackwood's communications suggest that Palace Guardian was planning to provide intelligence for additional operations. We need to identify them before they can destroy evidence or flee the country." Dr. Webb's analysis of the recovered computers was yielding crucial information. "Inspector Morrison, I've found financial records showing payments to someone with the initials MR totaling over $200,000 during the past year. The payments were disguised as consulting fees." The investigation team began cross-referencing the initials with palace staff who had appropriate security clearance. The list was surprisingly short, but each name represented someone with intimate access to royal security systems. Tom's anxiety grew as he realized that someone his family had trusted completely had been betraying them for months. "Inspector, how many people have the level of access that Palace Guardian would need?" "Fewer than 20 individuals have access to all the information that was compromised. We're conducting background checks on each of them, but this level of betrayal suggests someone with years of trusted service." The breakthrough came when Dr. Webb discovered that the financial payments to MR corresponded exactly with dates when royal family members had traveled internationally. Someone had been selling travel schedules and security arrangements to Helena Blackwood's network. "Inspector, I've found something crucial," Dr. Webb announced. "The payment records show that MR received a bonus payment just 3 days ago, right after information about Mr. Parker Bowles' Swiss trip was provided." Inspector Morrison immediately contacted Palace Security to review who had access to Tom's travel itinerary. The list included his personal staff, palace coordinators, and several security personnel responsible for monitoring family member movements. Tom felt sick as he realized how thoroughly his privacy had been violated. "Inspector, if they knew my exact travel schedule, they could have planned the timing of the theft specifically to coincide with my departure." "Exactly, Mr. Parker Bowles. Your aircraft was chosen not just because of your family connection, but because they knew exactly when you would be traveling and could time the discovery of the artifacts for maximum impact." The investigation took another dramatic turn when Palace Security reported that Marcus Rothwell, a senior security coordinator with 25 years of royal service, had failed to report for work that morning and couldn't be contacted. Inspector Morrison's expression grew grim as the implications became clear. "Mr. Parker Bowles, Marcus Rothwell has access to everything that Palace Guardian would need. His initials match the payment records, and his absence today is highly suspicious." Tom remembered Marcus Rothwell from numerous royal events over the years. The man had been a trusted figure who had helped coordinate security for family gatherings, traveled with the royal family on official visits, and had been personally commended by Queen Camilla for his dedicated service. "Inspector, if Marcus is involved, he would know every detail of our security procedures. He's been present at family meetings where sensitive topics were discussed." MI5 immediately issued alerts for Marcus Rothwell while forensic accountants began tracing the financial connections between him and Helena Blackwood's operation. The evidence was building rapidly, but time was critical if they hoped to apprehend him before he could escape. Dr. Webb discovered additional communications that painted a picture of long-term planning and systematic betrayal. "Inspector, the records show that Marcus Rothwell provided information about royal collection storage, guard schedules, and even details about which artifacts would be moved for cleaning or display. The scope of the intelligence that had been compromised was staggering. Marcus Rothwell had essentially provided criminals with a complete roadmap for targeting royal treasures and potentially endangering the royal family." Tom's phone buzzed with an urgent message from Palace Security. "Marcus Rothwell's home and office have been searched. Multiple forged documents and large amounts of cash discovered. Evidence suggests he was preparing to flee the country." Inspector Morrison coordinated with international law enforcement agencies while Tom struggled to process the betrayal by someone his family had considered absolutely trustworthy. "Inspector, my mother is going to be devastated. Marcus has been with our family for over 2 decades. He was at my wedding, attended Christmas celebrations, and had access to our most private moments. Mr. Parker Bowles, the psychological impact of this betrayal is significant, but it's important to remember that his actions led to his exposure. The network he was feeding information to made the mistake of targeting you specifically." As evening approached, authorities received a break in locating Marcus Rothwell. Airport security at Gatwick reported that someone matching his description had attempted to board a flight to Dubai using a false passport but had been detained when his identity was verified. Inspector Morrison received confirmation within the hour. "Mr. Parker Bowles, we have Marcus Rothwell in custody. The man who betrayed your family's trust for money is now facing charges of treason, theft, and conspiracy against the crown." Tom felt a mixture of relief and profound sadness. The immediate threat had been resolved, but the damage to his family's sense of security and trust would take much longer to heal. The investigation had revealed not just a theft ring, but a fundamental breach of the sacred trust between the royal family and those sworn to protect them. The recovery of the stolen artifacts was just the beginning of a much larger process of rebuilding security and confidence in the systems designed to safeguard the monarchy. 3 weeks after the arrest of Marcus Rothwell and Helena Blackwood's criminal network, Tom Parker Bowles stood in the private study at Clarence House as Queen Camilla reviewed the final security assessment report. The weight of betrayal still hung heavy in the air, but there was also a sense of justice served and lessons learned. Inspector Morrison has confirmed that all stolen artifacts have been authenticated and returned to their proper locations, Queen Camilla said, setting down the thick document. The investigation also uncovered 3 additional planned thefts that have now been prevented. Tom nodded, still processing how his routine business trip had unraveled such an extensive conspiracy. "Mother, the most disturbing aspect is how long Marcus had been planning this. The evidence shows he was recruiting other palace staff and gathering intelligence for over 2 years. The final interrogations had revealed the full scope of Marcus Rothwell's betrayal. Using his trusted position, he had systematically documented security procedures, photographed valuable artifacts during routine inspections, and even recruited 2 junior staff members who believed they were participating in legitimate security assessments. Inspector Morrison arrived for the final briefing, carrying additional evidence that had been recovered from international bank accounts. Your Majesty, Mr. Parker Bowles, I'm pleased to report that we've recovered nearly $1.2 million that Marcus Rothwell had hidden in offshore accounts. The funds will be returned to the Crown Estate. Queen Camilla's expression remained serious despite the positive news. Inspector, what measures have been implemented to prevent similar betrayals in the future? Your Majesty, Palace Security has implemented a comprehensive new protocol system. All staff with access to sensitive information now undergo enhanced background checks every 6 months, and no single individual will have access to complete security procedures without oversight. Tom had been deeply involved in reviewing the new security measures. His experience as the unwitting target of the conspiracy had given him unique insights into the vulnerabilities that had been exploited. Inspector, the most important change is the compartmentalization of information. Under the new system, travel schedules, security protocols, and artifact inventories are managed by separate teams with no overlap. Dr. Hartwell joined the briefing to provide the final assessment of the recovered royal artifacts. Your Majesty, all items have been thoroughly examined and authenticated. Remarkably, none of the stolen pieces sustained any damage during their theft or recovery. However, we did discover that the criminals had created replicas so sophisticated that they could have fooled most experts. The quality of the replicas had been one of the most disturbing aspects of the conspiracy. Helena Blackwood's network had invested substantial resources in creating forgeries that were intended to replace original artifacts in royal collections, potentially allowing thefts to go undetected for years. Inspector Morrison continued his report with information about the international connections they had uncovered. Your Majesty, the investigation revealed that this network had connections to similar operations in other European countries. We've shared our findings with international law enforcement agencies, and several additional arrests have been made. Tom felt gratitude that their discovery had helped protect royal collections beyond Britain's borders. Inspector, do we know how many other royal families might have been targeted? Mr. Parker Bowles, evidence suggests that at least 4 European royal houses were being assessed for potential thefts. Our investigation has allowed them to identify and remove security vulnerabilities before any crimes occurred. Queen Camilla stood and walked to the window overlooking the gardens, where increased security patrols were now a permanent feature. The most difficult aspect of this entire situation has been the betrayal of trust. Marcus Rothwell was not just an employee. He was someone we considered family. The psychological impact of the betrayal extended beyond just security concerns. Many long-serving palace staff had expressed feeling violated and suspicious of colleagues they had worked with for years. Counseling services had been provided to help process the trauma of learning that someone they trusted had been systematically betraying their confidence. Inspector Morrison addressed the emotional toll directly. Your Majesty, it's important to remember that Marcus Rothwell's actions were an aberration. The vast majority of palace staff demonstrated absolute loyalty and professionalism throughout this investigation. Tom had been particularly impressed by how Captain Richards and Sarah had cooperated fully with the investigation despite the personal stress of being scrutinized. Their transparency and dedication had helped investigators quickly focus on the real criminals. Inspector, I want to formally commend Captain Richards and Sarah for their cooperation. Their willingness to provide complete access to maintenance records and communications was crucial to solving this case. Dr. Webb joined the final briefing to report on the technical aspects of the security improvements. Your Majesty, we've implemented new electronic monitoring systems that will detect any unauthorized modifications to royal family aircraft or vehicles. The technology used to create the hidden compartment in Mr. Parker Bowles' jet would now be detected immediately. The conversation turned to the legal proceedings that would continue for months. Helena Blackwood, Marcus Rothwell, and their associates faced serious charges including treason, theft of crown property, and conspiracy to commit crimes against the state. Inspector Morrison provided an update on the legal timeline. Your Majesty, the Crown Prosecution Service expects the trials to begin within 6 months. The evidence is overwhelming, and we anticipate guilty pleas from most defendants. Queen Camilla's expression showed both sadness and determination. Inspector, it's crucial that these prosecutions send a clear message that betraying the Crown's trust will be met with the full force of the law. Tom reflected on how the experience had changed his perspective on security and trust. This entire situation has reminded me how precious and fragile the institutions we serve really are. The people who protect us deserve our gratitude, but they also deserve our vigilance. As the briefing concluded, Inspector Morrison offered his final assessment of the investigation. Your Majesty, Mr. Parker Bowles, while this conspiracy represented a serious threat, its exposure has ultimately strengthened royal security systems. The new protocols and technologies implemented will provide better protection for years to come. Tom walked Inspector Morrison to his car, grateful for the professionalism and dedication that had resolved such a complex and sensitive case. His canceled business trip to Switzerland had ultimately served a far more important purpose than any meeting could have achieved. Queen Camilla joined her son on the steps of Clarence House as they watched the inspector depart. Tom, your cooperation and courage during this investigation helped protect not just our family, but the heritage of the nation itself. Tom looked up at the building that housed centuries of royal history and tradition. The stolen artifacts had been returned, the criminals were in custody, and new security measures were in place. Most importantly, the institution of the monarchy had demonstrated its resilience in face of betrayal and its commitment to protecting the treasures entrusted to its care. The investigation was closed, but its lessons would influence royal security protocols for generations to come. Tom's private jet, once a symbol of luxury and convenience, had become an unlikely catalyst for one of the most important security reforms in modern royal history.